Good morning, children. It is I, your 8th grade drama teacher, here with a very, very important video. I need to teach you how to make a scrunchie. So, despite what you may think, I'm actually not old enough to have lived through scrunchies being in style non-ironically. I know American Apparel tried to bring them back a couple years ago, but American Apparel is now bankrupt. So much for that. Also, Lululemon has a scrunchie now that's like $8, and we'll see how that works out for them. But just in case you want to wear a scrunchie, ironically or not, I'm going to show you how to make one. What you're going to need is a rectangle of fabric, and I chose the wrong color fabric to go with my backdrop. Oh well. So this is about 6 inches by 18 inches, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half lengthwise, so it looks like this. Now I've got the right sides together, so in case you're new to like sewing and fashion and stuff, like there's a right side and a wrong side to the fabric. Whatever side of the fabric you want to face out will go on the inside now, and you'll fold it in half lengthwise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these two edges to make a really, really long tube. Now you can do this with a needle and thread. You don't have to have a sewing machine for this. I just happen to have a sewing machine sitting here that people comment on every now and then, and I never use. So, sewing down this edge lengthwise. So now you should basically just have a really long tube. So right now this is inside out, and you're going to need to turn it right side out. So what you can do is just kind of like maybe get a chopstick and maneuver it. They do make like turning devices, but unless you're sewing a lot, it doesn't really make sense to buy a turning device, especially because you can get like a chopstick and just kind of like jimmy it and it will work. Okay, so now you should basically have a tube of fabric, and on the long edge, the like rough ends are on the inside. So it looks nice and clean on the outside. Now what you need to do is you need to again join it together to make a loop, this time a loop like this. Now what you're going to do is on this open end, you've got the right ends together, and you're going to need to sew across here. Now this part gets a little bit difficult, so if you want to switch to hand sewing, this is actually easier if you do this part hand sewing. But what I'm going to do on my machine is I'm going to sew across here. I'm going to try and get that seam 1.5 inches at least. Okay, so you've got your scrunchie here with its hole, and what you're going to do is you're going to get a piece of elastic. It really doesn't need to be that long, but make it a bit longer than you think it's going to be because you'll cut it off at the end. And then you also get a safety pin, and what you do is you put the safety pin on the elastic, and then you take the hole here and you kind of like lead the elastic through using the safety pin, and make sure that you keep a hold of this in your other hand so you don't lose it. So once you've got both ends off, what you can do is kind of like gauge how tight you want the elastic to be, and then just kind of tie it off. And once the knot is nice and secure, what you can do is just cut off the loose ends, because you don't really need the ends. Although if you want to leave the ends, you can, because they're going to be like tucked inside and won't really affect anything. Okay, so that is our scrunchie, that is our hole. The only thing left to close this hole, honestly, if you're hand sewing, if you're not comfortable using a sewing machine, the best way to do it is just by hand. But if you're concerned about efficiency and want this to be fast, do it on the machine. So I'm going to show you on the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tug to kind of like distribute the elastic and distribute the fabric. And then I want to get the fabric kind of away from the hole so that I can kind of maneuver. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to pinch it, or I'm going to tug it so that the raw ends go on the inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this flat and sew across here. So I'm trying to align this hole so that the raw ends are inside, and I can just put a stitch over the top and it will hold everything in place. Now ideally, if you're doing this use matching thread, and also kind of make sure that you don't sew through the elastic. Okay, so that is what it looks like when it is sewn, and all I need to do is cut off the loose thread, and voila, I have made a scrunchie. Thank you for watching.